Excellent. So welcome you guys. I'm glad that you managed to come on time.
So this is live right now?
Yes, this is live and we have people watching, my brother. So we all your little banter and moving around your phone, but that is fine because that's what Life with Liliana is about. Okay, so this is real situations and real life. We don't have a huge TV tech team behind us to be doing all of this stuff. So that's fine. Let's just go with it. So thank you again for making time, and thank you everybody that's joining us live today. Like I said, we are just so excited to have our first live session, and really for us at Life with Liliana, this is a natural, I guess, evolution of what we're doing. Most of you would already be following the page where I have been sharing a lot of lessons that I've learned. And like, this is my personal journey, okay? This is not me trying to tell people what to do, but I thought it would be really useful, even if it helps one person. Some of the lessons that I've learned, I've been sharing them. So what we're doing now in this series, so we're going to be doing a series over the next 6 weeks. What I realized is that there's some specific topics that people really respond to. I've got an amazing amount of feedback, right? So what I thought would be really useful is if we got different people involved, if I brought my friends in, and I have a lot of friends, so if I brought them into Life with Liliana and we actually looked at these topics from different perspectives, okay? So for those of you who didn't read the fine print on the event and just responded to my, please join, please watch me. What we're doing today is we are talking about working from home, okay? So that has been one of the most liked, most responded to topics that I've spoken about on my page. Now we are going to look at the perspective from our wonderful guests here, Moses and Cathy O'Connor. So their situation is that primarily, normally, under normal circumstances, they work from home and on the road, okay? Now, with these restrictions that we have in Fiji, they have their children also working in their workspace. And so their children, they have 4 children, 3 of them are of school age, and so they're working online. And so their children range from 20 to 3 years old. So I can imagine your 3-year-old Liam must be so happy to have everybody in the house, right? So he must be playing havoc and all of that. So we're going to listen to their perspective. That's today, and over the next 6 weeks, we'll have some other guests from different perspectives. But before we start, let me introduce our guests. Some of you may know them very well. I know Moses is a little bit of a celebrity to some people. Celebrity. He's only famous because of his wife, Cathy. But anyway, Moses and I first met in ANZ. So we both worked at ANZ Bank in Suva. So when I joined, I met him like in my first few months. And he had been working there for a long time, right? Because he's way older than me. But anyway, he has been in the bank for 17 years. He worked in mainly customer service, so dealing with customers in really, I guess, his whole career there, but in different sectors. So he worked in the tourism sector of the bank, and then before he left, he was in the electronic banking section, right, in that business. And that was when electronic banking was relatively new to Fiji, so that was a brand new space. Now, his beautiful wife was a flight attendant for 14 years with Fiji Airways. And then they left their places of work, you wouldn't believe this if you don't know their story, to go to Cambodia for 5 years. Cambodia, of all places, Cambodia. They didn't just go and decide to go and live there and have a holiday and live the high life. They actually went as missionaries to take the word of God, which is an amazing story on its own that we can probably do another session on. So that's their background. Now that they're in Fiji, now they've been back for a few years. They haven't been back that long. They're both lead pastors at Inner City Tabernacle that's based in Suva, in central Suva, and they also are leadership and life coaches, okay? So again, some of you may have come across this couple already. Really, they just live their life outwardly, I feel. Beautiful, beautiful couple. And they are also parents to 4 children, like I mentioned. They have 2 girls and 2 boys. So like I said, their place of work is home. So we're going to hear from them how they have navigated this season. I won't say navigated. I think the correct word to say is navigating, because would you agree we haven't fully come to all the solutions we want? So let's start this way, right? Let's just go back to when these restrictions came about in Fiji. So when we will say, okay, everything's gonna shut down, people are gonna be at home, you cannot move around, you had your 3 school-age children at home, you guys had to work at home as well. If I came to your house at that time, in the early days, say in the first 2 weeks, and I peeped in the window, tell me what I would see. What would the picture be? What would I see and what would I hear? Maybe keep out any words that's not suitable for children, but what would I see and hear at that time?
Yeah, you want to start?
So it definitely won't be anything you think. You know, there's always that thinking that a pastor's home is perfect.
Right.
Definitely not that. It was chaotic. It was chaotic because, like you said, the sharing of spaces was a big thing. Being able to find your own, your own corner. Everyone had something going on at that time, and so definitely, for us, because when we were in Cambodia, we had a taste of what it was like to share space. Because we homeschooled the kids. The kids were actually in online school for a while. But the part where it was the restriction to movement that got to us.
Okay. And movement on your part, is that movement from your side or the kids moving, or is it your own physical movement that was?
We had the lockdown, so everyone was stuck at home. We were not used to being stuck at home and being confined to just this boundary, the home boundary. Yeah?
Right.
And so it was not easy. We finally fine-tuned a lot of things when it comes to our schedule.
Right.
Initially finding that schedule, everyone fitting in their schedule was hard.
Okay. How were the kids feeling towards each other at that time? How were they behaving towards each other? Were they how was that dynamic going?
Well, in the Fiji context, they'd be fighting for gadgets because we had a few gadgets, but then everybody was required to go on Zoom for classes. I conducted my Zoom meetings, and so the available gadgets that were with them were going to be scheduled. So if you had to peek in at that hour, you'll be seeing the arguments going on. It's my turn. This is mine.
Right.
I've got one that's more important. Yeah. So it was chaotic initially because we had to transit from the physical schooling to now pivoting onto the online platforms.
Right.
And the impediment there was the lack of gadgets. And until we solved that problem, the issue of squabbling over gadgets was one. Right. And if you don't mind, let me show you my setup. So just hold steady. I'll move my camera and show you. This is nice looking, right, behind me.
Yes.
Looks like a hotel room.
Look at Cathy's face.
But look at that now. That's the setup.
Wow.
Okay, that's a home studio, right?
Wow.
So everybody's taking cover, but that's the reality.
I love it.
So you got books. So
I think your camera's off. There we go.
I don't have a professional setup. That's my setup. And you got books stacked up, and you've got this is a makeup lamp for women, for their makeup. And there's some floodlights for the outside that's brought in to do the lighting. So to answer your question, if you had to peek in, that will be the setup in the house.
That sounds like chaos, bro. That does not sound like a pretty site. It doesn't sound like it'd be pretty. No. So that's good, because it kind of leads into the next question I had, was because obviously during this time you'd be like, okay, we need to resolve this. We need to figure out how we're going to resolve it. So you would have gone through the process of identifying, okay, what are the key issues here and how can we come up with some solutions to address these key issues. So would you mind just talking us through what are some of those issues you identified and what solutions you brought for them?
First of all, you had to settle your mind, my mind as an individual, and our minds as a family. That we've got to accept the fact that the times have changed, and we've got to reposition our thinking. That this is not just the home, this is now the office, this is now the classroom.
Right.
If we don't adapt in the mind, then the chaos will continue.
Right.
So we've got to settle it in our mind first that this is going to happen, and everybody must be on board with it.
There's a lot of communication.
Right.
A lot of communication with each other.
Communication is key.
Right.
So having a timetable, a schedule of who's going on Zoom at this time, so that there's no clash and there's no feedback. Because if you are operating online at the same time, your talking can impede on the other person's engagement or learning. So we had to draw up a plan and divide our spaces accordingly. So there had to be a lot of, first of all, accepting the fact that we had changed.
Okay.
It's no longer physical school. It's no longer your space, my space. We've got to make adjustments. And the adjustment starts in the mind. If you win in the mind, you can win elsewhere. So there's no more yelling and growling at one another in the process because I'm late. My Zoom class started already and you had your time, and all those things are eliminated when you make a plan and you accept the plan and then you have it rolled out. Yep.
Okay, I like that. And I like what you said about just, we need to accept in our mind that this is it, okay? We cannot do anything about the circumstances. This is where we're at, so this is what we're going to do. And you guys talked about communication. Like how do you manage that with the kids? Because I find myself often just losing patience and communication becomes just stop it, get out of my way. This is not your time to be on the laptop. So how do you communicate in a, how did you manage the communication with your children?
We have a lot of sit down meetings with our children. So there's always the kids go to MIS and they've learned how to conduct meetings, like formal meetings. So we've adopted that here at home.
Wow. Okay.
So that if there is an issue, we all in unify and come to a solution, an amicable solution together. So everyone takes ownership of the moment or of the problem.
I see.
So it's involving them. It's involving them in the what would you call it, in the
decision-making process.
Solving. Yeah.
Okay. So do you find though, when you're involving kids in that way, that sometimes it forces you to humble yourself a little bit? Because I'm just imagining like you also have to listen as opposed to, is that a normal feeling that you would, I'm just imagining how that would happen with me.
Yes, definitely. Because then, but then when you think about the long run, what you're doing is equipping them to be able to continue this later on in life. They start taking ownership of of problems or whatever it is they're facing from this age.
Right. That's so.
But it's always a challenge when we had to compare it with our upbringing.
Yeah.
We had no negotiation time. You do as you're told.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so for us, giving that opportunity for them to think and to come to the table and offer their ideas was a challenge in and of itself. So that's why I'm saying that we've got to change the way we think about things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I really like that. That's so valuable, you guys. So you said that you have schedules. So what would a normal schedule, average schedule look like for you guys every day?
So because of time, and because I have a little one who demands of me, my day starts at 3 a.m. That's when everybody's asleep.
Oh my goodness.
So I've had to push back to that hour so that I can get as much as I can done. So by 7 a.m., I'm freed up to look after the small one when he's up.
Wow.
And then right throughout the day, the kids can have the gadget for their online schooling, which starts at about 9:30.
Right.
So we've had to make adjustments in terms of our time usage.
So it's not, you can't continue with the schedule that you had before. There's a lot of adjustments made 3 a.m. So we're cleaning at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., washing clothes at 11 p.m. You know, there's a lot of adjustment.
I see. And, you know, that's a challenge because I think a lot of us, and I speak for myself saying that I'm a creature of habit. And I found I just have to break out of that because it's not the same circumstances. Like Moses said, we need to just tell our mind, this is different. We need to adjust. If you need to do your washing at 10 p.m. instead of 10 a.m., then that's what you got to do, right? So it's a very different, you know, it's actually a significant shift. I feel like we've just really underestimated what a huge shift this is. When people say we just work from home, it isn't that easy. And I've realized too that I'm really fortunate to have somebody living in with me, but then now we have employers expecting their staff to work from home, deliver the same amount or at least close to the same amount. But at the same time, you've got children who have been given schoolwork. I mean, we're fortunate that we have kids in private schools, so they have a lot of, you know, their teachers are online, but the public schools are just given handouts and things, and the parents are expected to walk them through it. So it's kind of like, who's the employee, who's the teacher, who's washing the clothes, who's making the food. So I feel like there's this whole group of, you know, this part of the country that is really struggling to adjust to this. And so I'm thankful that you guys have agreed to come on so that we can talk through it and just hear what other people are doing and see whether we can take some of that for ourselves. So, you know, while on that, and this is like, you know, we're going into the finish now, but while on that, what advice do you have for people when it comes to, especially parents, when it comes to looking after themselves in this season? How have you guys done it to take time for yourselves to make sure that you're okay, that you're stable and you have enough to give and you are not going insane? So is there anything that you can share with us here tonight?
That's a very good point, Lana, because you cannot think well if you're not healthy.
Right.
If you're in a sick body. So the first thing you have to understand is that you are compartmentalized into three: your physical, your soul, and your spirit.
Right.
So if you're not physically healthy, it'll affect your emotional health. It'll affect your spiritual health. So for us, in a nutshell, supplements is important.
Right.
So we take supplements because we're getting on in age, and there's definitely, you know, lacking in probably the dietary issues. So the supplements cover for that. And the discipline of getting ourselves out there for at least 30 minutes of a walk or exercise.
Right.
So, you know, just keeping that balance. It's always a challenge because there's times we're backslidden in terms of getting the physical exercise. But one thing we've not missed out on is the supplements, the omega-3 oils, the vitamin Bs, the vitamin Cs, the glucosamine for the joints. You know, it's beginning to creak now, Lana, and that's one thing we've got to adjust.
That's what happens when you get on age, my brother. I'm not familiar with that yet, but I'll take your word for it. So can you tell me, okay, I'm just getting a little bit more practical here. So if I'm just thinking, if I'm somebody that doesn't take supplements, like what exactly, like if I go to the chemist, what am I asking for? What do you use that you recommend is useful?
Oh, besides that, if you know the chemist is probably something that's not in, along your alley.
What do you ask?
There's herbal juices that's out there, Fijian stuff. That you can go to, you know. But if you go to the pharmacy, one thing that's general is that heart health. And heart health would require oils, omega-3 oils, fish oil. So
Okay.
fish oil is generally what we take for that.
Yes.
For the joints, particularly if you've played sport before and you've had joint injuries, glucosamine is a supplement to go with. Vitamin C generally should be something that we always stock at home for the common flu.
Yes.
And now with COVID, vitamin D supplement, but we have a lot of vitamin D outside in the sunlight.
Right.
That could be the best thing to. But if there's, like Suva's weather is unpredictable, you always have the overcast weather, then having vitamin D and fish oil available from the chemist is something, or multivitamins for that matter.
Okay. And
but
even
if you're good with your diet and you're always at the supermarket, and you know what to get in terms of balancing off your dietary requirements, then that's a good way to go.
And that's
organic.
Good. Yeah, that's good. And if any of the viewers have any suggestions, just pop them in the chat. If you have anything that really works for you, that you think would be useful for others, please just pop that in the chat. I just want to ask, like, as we start to close out, we've got the physical, and of course that's really important, but what about our minds? Like, how do you guys stay kind of centered and don't lose control? Like, what is part of your routine that you always do to make sure that your mindset is in the right place for the day?
We have a routine, and that is called thought audit, to audit your thoughts every day.
Wow, okay.
Thought audit, and it's simple. You identify limiting thoughts.
Okay.
Limiting thoughts. I can't, I never used to do that, I won't be able to, it's so hard. Everything that's negative, you've got to list that down and replace that with the can-do attitude. I'll give it a try. I definitely can. You know, I can talk to people and I can always learn, because the mindset should be that we're always on a learning journey. So we'll never arrive.
Yes.
You can learn online, you can learn from people, but it's always a learning process. Never limit yourself with what the state you're currently in. There's always something to achieve.
Right.
So the mindset has to be, you identify the limiting thoughts.
Yes.
And you got to replace it with a better thought.
Yes.
So we do that on a routine basis every day, just to check where the thought has come from.
And that's
come from.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm thinking, you know, like I just don't know how you guys do it with, like, it seems like your hands are full. You've got 4 kids, and as it is, you know, a lot of us who don't have as much going on struggle to find time to just do 10 minutes of like a quiet time in the morning. And when you're saying like limiting thoughts, to me, it sounds like it'll take a lot of time. Is this right? Or what does that kind of look like practically? If you get where I'm coming, what does it look like every day? Because I think it's excellent.
It's always on the go, huh?
It's always happening. So it's dynamic. Right. Huh? It's not isolated to a 1-hour isolation period.
Right.
You're on the go. So you're constantly auditing your thoughts on the go. The Bible tells us, be slow to speak, swift to listen, slow to anger.
Yeah.
Slow to speak means you're always thinking before you open your mouth.
Right.
So it's a discipline. You listen more before you act. So on the trot, even between us, if there's an issue, I've got to count 3 seconds before I actually utter words. Now I'm going to think, okay, why am I going to say this? Where's the thought coming from? Am I angry? Did she push a wrong button? And so why should I react to that? All those things are going on in nanoseconds. It doesn't come overnight, but it comes through practice. For you to keep the peace, particularly when everything around us is not normal. I mean, we're shut down. We're bumping into each other in the corridor every second of the day.
Right.
The normal times that we once knew is everybody's out of the house, and absence makes the heart grow fonder. You come back, you're willing to see each other.
Yeah.
So it has to start in the mind. It has to start in the mind. You have to know that this is a different season, and you've got to audit why you think the way you think. This is potentially a bomb that's going to be exploding. Put it away. You have control over your thinking. You don't control the circumstances around you, but you can control your thought. Everything starts with an idea, Lana. Everything.
Right.
Arguments or peace starts in the mind.
Right. So, you know, this is a really good piece of advice, because I feel like when we're in this situation, we react a lot out of our emotion about what we're feeling. But what you're saying is condition your mind, set your mind to that place. So this starts to affect this. So we're not kind of acting out of response, and that's when people get hurt and we're talking out of frustration. It's like, no, this is a limiting belief. When my husband is going to talk to me and lash out at me, or my child, I'm going to take 5 seconds. So, you know, and like you said, you mentioned a great word, just discipline. And it's not always going to be perfect, but, you know, we have to start somewhere. And so if we start from that understanding, I think, you know, in all of this and all of what you've spoken about, even from how you've managed the kids, starts from the mind, okay? Understand where we're at, okay? Let's appreciate where we're at, understand what's going to be next, you know, decide for ourselves what are some limiting, I mean, also see what some of our limiting beliefs are, because you said that we often, oh, I can't do this. You know, I won't be able to meet this deadline because my son is making too much noise, or he's got this. And so all of that is already limiting us. But once we start shifting that, talking to it, and then that starts to affect our own behavior. And so that's really where everything is rooted, right, in our minds. The battlefield of the mind, as we know.
Absolutely.
You know, we've run out of time. And time flies when you're having fun.
Always run out of time.
Yeah, so I just have one more question for Mrs. O'Connor, because, you know, like as women, when we go out, we like to get dressed, you know, it's an opportunity for us to put on our perfume and for us to put on our earrings. Like today is really the first time for me to like put on some bronzer in weeks. And so I got out the brush and I was like, I don't know whether Stanley's online, but Stanley Morrell gives me great advice because I'm really not good at makeup. And I was like, did he say brush this way? Or did he say brush this way? Or what? So anyway, you guys didn't see that, thank God. But, you know, we feel good when we put on some lipstick and we've put on, you know, for women in particular. So I want to just hear from you, my sister, very quickly. Like, what do you do in that space, you know, because it's all like a little bit of wellness and, you know, taking self-care. Like, what have you kind of done and I can see that your hair is looking very beautiful, by the way. Is there anything that you've made sure that you have, you know, carved out time for, to just make sure that we're not forgetting about those things that make us feel good, and some self-care?
You know, you mentioned, well, usually what we do is we glam up when it's time to go somewhere.
Yes.
I found that in this season, like, really, we're not going anywhere. There's nothing happening, no. But that shouldn't stop us from glamming up. I mean, sometimes I walk out dressed up early in the morning to go nowhere.
Yeah.
but you feel good about, you know, dressing up and putting the makeup on, and then you know, just putting a piece of jewelry on that you haven't worn in a while. So why not? You know, I think we deserve it.
Yes.
We deserve to just glam up for nothing.
Yes.
So I found that just doing that, we have come to understand that although we cannot do much when it comes to, you know, going out, eating out, or dating out, we have allowed each other me time. So sometimes Moses can go to the car and he sits there for an hour and listens to music, because that's a quiet space for him. And for me, I'll sit in the balcony in the morning and just breathe in the fresh air.
Yes.
It's the little things now.
But see, Lana, that's another mindset.
Right.
She said, glam up to go nowhere. Hey, you glam up for each other. You glam up for each other. It's not you glam up to go outside. You glam up for each other. You don't lose yourself in the process. You know, it's a mindset. You don't lose yourself in the process. You may be stuck in the house, but continue glamming up, because that's what spices the relationship. I know we're going on different tandem, but the glamming up keeps things alive in terms of your relationship. You don't just do it outside. What you do outside is a reflection of the inside.
So he noticed. He noticed.
Yeah. He noticed. And I know, interesting when you brought that up, my brother, because that's what I thought of when Cathy mentioned it. And I was like, man, then why do we only glam up when we need to go outside? And it's even like, even if it's not for your spouse, it should be for yourself. Like, you put on your makeup and thing because you like to feel good and you want to do it yourself. So, there's so many things that we're learning from this season, eh? And I love that your husband saying that, he's noticing. So maybe we can, next time we have this discussion, there'll be 5 and not 4.
Oh, please, no.
Oh, no, not.
Well, you really can't write off the spin-offs, eh? You do it for yourself, but there's obviously spin-offs. The benefits for these things happen. So at the end of the day, you say God's will, eh?
Yes. Yes, and man, I'm sorry, we have to end now because we've run out of time. But you just ended it in a perfect place, because the more we talk to people, I believe the more we're going to realize that there is so much richness and so many good things that are coming out of this season that we are choosing not to see. We are choosing it. We are choosing to pay attention to all the cases that are coming every day. We are choosing to get distracted by other things. And this is not to say we shouldn't have a heart for what's happening, but we have a choice to make sure that this season is also fruitful, and it absolutely can be, because it's changing paradigms, it's changing, conditional thinking. And so it's really exciting to think that we have this opportunity in this season, because it would never have happened if we were not forced into this situation, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go. I know Mrs. O'Connor's birthday today, everybody. I forgot to sing happy birthday because we started a little bit late. But thank you so much for taking time and just for giving us this time when I know it's a special evening for you. And thank you for being our very first guests. I feel very, very honored to have you. But for everybody else, we're going to be on at 6 p.m. next week. We are going to speak to another couple of individuals that will give us their perspective, and you will find that their stories will be quite different, okay? And I hope everybody has learned something from this. And again, if you have anything that you want to speak into Cathy and Moses, if you have any tips for them that might help, I'm sure they'll be glad to receive it. You can drop it if you're connected to them on Messenger or Facebook. Please do that, or you can send it to the Life with Liliana page and we will pass it out to them. But other than that, thanks so much, everybody. You have a good evening, and we will see you next week. Okay. Good night.